Thank you for listening to us again. I want now to speak a little about the partnerships that are so important in MagicMe. Our colleague earlier was saying it's about collaboration, and that is an essential ingredient in MagicMe. So I want you to look at this photograph which was taken 2 or 3 years ago. This group of people had been on stage performing songs which they had written together, new music. And just a minute. There's I don't know if this works. Music? This lady is the mayor of Tower Hamlets, and she had watched the performance and came back to see them. So all the other people were involved. But in this photograph you have a teacher, you have a senior person from a care home for older people, you have older people, children from a school, you have 2 MagicMe artists, a video artist and a musician, and you have 2 musicians from another arts organisation, plus a couple of volunteers who came along to help. And I wonder if you could tell me which one's which. Is it possible to know who the teacher is? Anyone got an idea? Who's the teacher? It's going to be difficult because the translators won't be able to tell me what you're saying. Someone's pointing. Who's the teacher? It's actually this lady here is the teacher. That lady loved working with older people. She'd grown up in a small village and she'd always grown up talking to older people and was excited when her school decided to do this project with care home residents. But she found a frustration that because she was there to work with her pupils and to support them when they were doing music with the adults, she didn't have a chance to sit and talk to the older people, but she came and joined in our Cocktails in Care Homes project because it was at the same care home. And then one of the mothers of one of the pupils also came along, so the teacher and the mother came to the Cocktails in Care Homes and carried on the relationship. And then we have the MagicMe artists here at the back and the people from the music programme, the lady from the care home and the volunteer. And you can probably guess who the children and the older people are. But within that we have people from different professional backgrounds, and within MagicMe we have a number of jobs as artists and organisers. And our first job is to build a community of organisations. So here, a school, a care home, and the Arts Festival who hosted us that day. We had to come together with MagicMe's 4 organisations to negotiate a schedule, aims for the project, the practicalities of bringing people to the same building, the same venue at the same time to do the work, and to negotiate which people from those 4 organisations would be there to support the activity. We then had to build a community of those individual professionals who you see in the photograph. What is the role of the teacher in an intergenerational group? Is it to work with the pupils? Is it to stand back and let the artists do their job? Is it to talk to the older people? Each person has to renegotiate their professional role. And then we have to help the participants to make partnerships together, as Sue described earlier, as one adult, one child, or a group of children with a group of adults. And in that mix, we have all kinds of cultures, and I don't mean the cultures of Bengali children and English adults. I mean those professional cultures that have their own languages, their own training, their own angles. And all of those professionals have to bring their own expertise, but really value the expertise of other people, which is different. And our job is to help them to do that. A second part of that partnership is where do we do this work? I'm pointing at the wrong thing. Can I have a slide? Thank you. This is a photography workshop going on in a school, and the group came out into the corridor so they could take a photograph. But it's different if the older people go into the school or the children from the school go into the older people's setting. Different dynamic, different rules, different people as the host and the guest, and that all needs to be negotiated. It makes a difference. What's also important is that it's not just maybe one teacher who is our contact in that school who helps to make things happen. Everybody else has to know it's happening. It's not normal to have older people coming into school, so other people can be surprised. We had one man who was in his 80s in one of our projects, and he hated school. He had a terrible time. He was very pleased to leave, and when he had children, he made himself go to the school to help them and support their education, but he still hated it because he'd had such a bad time. And it took a long time. He loved young people, so when the young people came to his community centre, he really enjoyed it, and they invited him to come to the school, and he really wanted to come, but he was nervous, very nervous, and I had to walk with him and get him there. When he came, he was standing in the corridor, and he was nosy, so he went round the corner to have a look and see what was happening. And a teacher came up and said, "What are you doing here? Why are you here?" He thought he was a stranger who shouldn't be in the school. So this man was already scared, and he was almost out of the door and going home because the teacher had shouted at him. And he had so many bad memories of being shouted at by teachers that we nearly lost him. But he came back. So it's really important that the receptionist in the school knows, the other teachers know, everybody who the older people might meet understands that they're going to be there. So that you can build within a school art room here a mixed group of adults and students working together on an agenda which the school values, and that the school values the input of those older people. So in one group we had, the school discovered that the older people were really good at art. They had another artist who went into their centre besides Magically. They've been artists for a long time. And so when she was looking for judges for an art competition for the students, she asked the older people to come to the school to be the judges, which they were really pleased about, that the school saw them as experts. I think I'm running out of time. How am I doing? Yeah, I've got 3 minutes. So it's really important that the school and their partner, either a community centre or a care home or a housing organisation for older people, understand one another's agendas and have aims for their group which will work together. The aims may be very different for the young people and the older people, and individual young people and older people come for different reasons, but those agendas need to be compatible so they can work together. Next slide. This is true for the older people's side as well. So here we have a resident, an older man who lives in the care home, and a member of staff at one of our cocktail parties, getting up to dance together. And normally in a care home, touch is about looking after someone, it's about physical care. And older people who live, who may have been married but are now widowed, may not be touched by anybody. But getting up and dancing means that their relationship changes from being a carer to being mutual participants. Next slide. And one of the interesting things that both teachers and care workers will tell us is they see a different side of the pupils or the residents because those people are in a different situation. So a 10-year-old who in class talks too much and doesn't get on with their work can be a problem, or is seen as a problem. But if you take a 10-year-old into a social situation where you're trying to get a discussion going, if they're a person who loves to talk, they're a real asset to the group. So they become a valued person, and the teacher sees that as a value in them. And the child who perhaps at home does a lot of caring within their family suddenly has a skill which they can bring to the school situation. They know how to talk to older people. They can be a role model for their fellows. But here, portrait of Marguerite was a way of collaging that lady's face together, but I think it demonstrates as well there are many different aspects to all of us. We all have multiple personalities within us, and the different people in our lives see different aspects of us, different faces of who we are. And the artwork and the being with people who are different to you bring out different sides of you, so you show another part of yourself. I remember a lady who lived in a care home who was able to walk around, but she was quite depressed and she never really got up and she really never enjoyed joining in with anyone. She was very much on her own. She got involved in a theatre project, and to start with she wouldn't do very much, and then one day the theatre maker put on a particular piece of music and she got up and she did a tap dance, and she could actually tap dance really well, and she'd learnt it when she was very young, and nobody knew that. And the staff completely changed their view of that lady and what she could do and how able she was. She just chose not to be able like that in that environment. But after that day, she couldn't hide it anymore. She started to join in different ways. So I think the arts bring that to the situation, but it can be challenging. I said that our Cocktails in Care Homes programme was about evening activities. The residents said we want something to happen in the evening, because the activities coordinator goes home at 5 o'clock. Well, if the lady who organises the activities goes home at 5 o'clock, who is going to help us to set up, to organise the parties? The rota is designed to have fewer people around, because the older people will go to bed. If the older people want to stay up, it has a knock-on effect onto the staff. If we want to move the furniture around to have a party, if we want to put decorations up, bring in music that they don't know, all of those things challenge the system. And we want to challenge the system because we don't think that the system's working, and the older people don't think the system is working. But we need to challenge in a way that we get invited back. We need to challenge it in a way that helps the system to change in a helpful way, not just to break it. It needs to not upset things so much that people feel uncomfortable or scared. And it needs to be experimental, because we don't know all the answers. We have to say, what we see in care homes sometimes, we don't think it's the best way of doing care, but we're not experts at care. What the arts can offer is possibilities, things to try, experiments, different ways, but really we have to work with all those other professionals to find out what the best solution is for a particular group of people or a particular place. I'm now going to hand over to Sue, who's going to carry on talking about partnership in different ways.
So I just wanted to say a little bit about how very many forms there are of participatory and collaborative work, and I hope we don't give any impression that there's only one way to do this work. I think an interesting way to think about it is that the work can look different depending a little bit on the focus. And it might be that the focus is very much about the social outcomes of the work. And I would describe that as work that is for people. So the thing that arises is a social need to combat loneliness, to raise literacy, perhaps to help people who are refugees feel more settled. And the art is designed around that in order to achieve a particular social aim. But I think another way of looking at it is to think of it as being work that is with people. And when the work is with people, then the artist or the arts organisation makes an offer. and says, we're going to be doing this, would you like to come and do it with us? We're going to be making a film. We're going to be looking at this area, we're going to be thinking about protest is a project that we worked on. What would you march for? Do you want to come and join us? So there's a sense of a group joining with an artist to work collaboratively on a project. And then a third way would be to say, this group of people already know what they want to do. So for example, in the example that we heard earlier, the people wanted to protest against a road being built through their village. So then the artist there to support them to do that. The work is by them, and the artist there to support them. I love the fact that the word collaborate in its origins literally does mean to share the labour. In the Latin roots of the word, it means to share the labour. And so I think in all those three examples, work for people, with people, and by people, there still is this sense of sharing labour. One of the projects which I did with MagicMe was part of a long collaboration with an organisation, so young women and older women, but we were based in a place called the Women's Library in London, and this housed a collection of women's history. It had been built on a collection of journals and newspaper articles and photographs and all kinds of things around the women who first got the vote for women in the UK. And I just wanted to say how many were the ways in which we had to collaborate. In the 5th year of the project, we were invited to create an artwork for the main exhibition. And this was a really big recognition from the Women's Library that the project wasn't only something which they helped with, that they hosted, but something which they could benefit from. And we always used their archives, so we went into the library and we used their materials, and in this year we were looking at stories of women who had in some way broken the glass ceiling. So the first woman astronaut, the first woman to win a race at the Olympics. I can't remember all the examples. So we had collaborated with them by using their archive. We had to collaborate with their exhibition designers because none of us knew how to create something to an exhibition standard. And there was a list of rules and regulations which we had never encountered before. And we had to think about the health and safety of visitors and so on, so there was that collaboration. During the project, something which came very much from the group of women was an understanding that the people we were studying, the people who had broken the glass ceiling, had irrevocably stepped from one state of being into a new state of being. So they left something behind in order to become this very particular achiever. And because of that understanding, the visual artist I was working with suggested that what we created was an archway through which the visitors to the exhibition had to step, so that they also experienced this sense of stepping from one place to another. And these two participants decided that the blossom that they made, everybody made a flower that went onto the tree about a story, but the blossom that they created housed a mirror because they wanted the visitors to the exhibition to see themselves and to think of themselves as somebody who could maybe become somebody who did something for the first time. So I just wanted to highlight those three, the collaboration with the archive of the building, with the design team at the building, but also with the collaboration of the participants. And it was through their ideas that we were able to think of what our exhibition would look like. So that level of collaboration actually needs very, very attentive listening. And I think that I heard a wonderful thing recently where somebody said, well, why do you have to have an artist involved? And the artist responded, because artists notice things. That's what all artists do. They're highly tuned to notice things, to really pay attention, and that's in all art forms. And so the artist notices everything that is going on in the room and is able to select from that and edit from that to try to find out what's really going to be the thing at the heart of the artwork. I've just, in the last couple of years, discovered the word reflexive, which I always thought was a word that was somebody saying the word reflective wrongly, and that it meant to be somebody who reflected on their work. But reflexive means that you integrate what you're learning always back into your activity. So you reflect, but you immediately change what you're doing because of the knowledge that the reflection is giving you. And I think that's a really important word for artists who are doing this work. This moment is from a dance project, and I've chosen it partly because the dancer had started by teaching the group in quite a traditional way, where she stood in front of them and they faced her, and she taught them a dance move. And the group were not really participating very well, they weren't really getting into it, and she tried a different methodology. So she worked always in among the group. So instead of standing away from them and instructing them, she was in among them. And in this image, both of them are looking in a mirror. So she's demonstrating the movement to the older woman. The other thing that you can't tell from the photograph is that what they were listening to was Madonna. And I think it's really interesting when artists think, oh, I know, I'll pick the music that this group will like. And the chances are that you're going to get it wrong. You may assume something about the group, and you may assume what the music is that they like. And this happens a lot with work only with older people, that music's chosen, and everyone thinks, oh, this is their era. But actually, you don't necessarily know that about people. And I think it was really interesting that in this project, the session that most came to life was when they learnt voguing from Madonna. And Madonna really wasn't the generation of either the young people or the older people, but it was the thing that got everybody going. So it's really important in terms of collaborating with a group, not to walk in with too many assumptions about it. An artist I worked with asked a group of young women who were all of Bangladeshi origin to bring in their music. And I remember her saying to them, could you bring in your music? And she was wanting Bangladeshi music. She got K-pop. That's what they loved. So you need to ask to find out and make sure that you're doing the right thing. The last group of people we've hardly talked about really is the audience. And I think that the encounter between the work that you make and the audience is absolutely crucial. What we've done more and more in work that I've done at Magically is to have a real dialogue with the audience at exhibitions, at performances. And the dialogue isn't to ask them what they thought of what we did. The dialogue is, well, what do you think about this thing that we've been studying? What do you think about this protest? In this project, we had been looking at the lives of women who broke the law for the greater good. We were looking at the idea that you can do wrong to achieve right. So having told this story, shared personal stories and stories of historic characters, nobody left the room. We invited the audience to come and talk to us about it. And in that way, I think what's a really beautiful thing about this kind of work is that everything you do is a piece of research, and it leads you to the next dialogue. It opens the work up so that you begin a discussion with a new group of people, and that will lead you to new projects. And in that way, you can see that every single aspect of this work is about relationship. Relationship in the room, relationship with partners, and then relationship with the next group of people who encounter it through what you make and the discussion which goes on with them.